We have around the outside the issues that passengers think are important in order. Safety at night's the most important issue, followed by reliability and frequency. And Melbourne and performance is the where you are in the graphic. And people worldwide are pretty worried about safety at night on public transport, and Melbourneites particularly. So, but frequency's up there as well as reliability. But things are changing. Our population is booming. 8 million by 2051. We're going to be in London. The rate of change is going down a little bit, but we're going to be in London. 64%. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. We're broadly going to be doubling the amount of dwellings in Melbourne. Yeah, in 20 odd years. And a mix of inner city and fringe sprawl is planned. Traffic congestion is growing. The current forecasts are 7 to 10 billion per annum costs on the economy from delay. Because we're car dependent, we're growing, we're going to get more traffic, we've got less roads, there's going to be a bit of increasing, but in the end, we're going to be more congested. Climate change, one worth mentioning. Transport is second biggest or third biggest emission area. It's growing, it's not going down. By 2030, it'll be the second largest. It's the highest emission growing sector, transport. And it's car traffic, trucks, right in the middle of it. The federal government's documentation strategy suggests better public transport, cycling and walking. Seems like I've heard a bit about that today. Electrifying vehicles as well. Better standards, teleworking. You might recognise this. Where is he? Elliot? You've probably updated this a lot. This is one of Elliot's slides. I love it. It says what's the emissions from all the different modes. This is why Janet's talking about walking and cycling, because it's really efficient, very space efficient, and no emissions, and it's good for health. But if you want to go longer distance, it's trains, trams, and buses, which still have emissions. Yeah, but very low footprints, because public transport's super efficient. However, cars are the exact opposite of what we should be doing. What about what should we be doing in public transport? Was a pecking order from the lorry bus, unreliable, all the way through to metro underground trains, which are highly high volume. People talk about shared mobility revolutions. Well, the shared mobility revolution is in public transport. Okay, they're carrying real people. The average occupancy of an Uber in the peak is 0.6 passengers, 0.7 passengers per trip. So they're actually floating around with nobody in them. What's the future? Well, the plans are for an SRL. That came out of the blue. The whole idea of the project is significant land use change in the long term. It costs enormous amount of money. But the whole idea was a land use shift to the structure of Melbourne to help doing something with car dependence. We've got a metro tunnel coming up next year, which is linking our lines, will improve capacity. We've got this level crossing removal program, which is proving quite popular. It is helping renew the railway network. Frankly, it's a road project. It's helping the traffic get better. We've got a lot of investment in new trams, which is great for accessibility, but trams are a very small share of the city, and it's not doing anything about their reliability, which is kind of the problem. Also, we're not particularly buying new trams for more frequency. We're effectively just renewing existing infrastructure. Buses, we've got bags of money going into zero-emission buses, and it's doing the exact opposite of more or less. It's actually making the buses a lot more expensive to run. It's kind of almost not what we needed. From an environmental point of view, it's great. Okay? From an efficiency point of view, costs, it's actually the opposite of that. It's making things more expensive. Doing more with less, these are our projects. I've been trying to look at what they're doing for emissions and other impacts. We've got a whole sweep of road projects which are just making the world worse. Our car dependence is just going to get worse and worse with those projects. We've got some public transport projects, A metro tunnel, I think, will help a little bit. It's an efficiency measure. Suburban rail, I think, in the long term, could make quite a big impact on land uses. You know, airport rail link, that's still in the future. It's only a small part of the network for small trips. Fundamentally, all of these are not really making a great deal of difference in the transport land use patterns of Melbourne. Can we be more efficient? This is a project we did for New Zealand. This is ridership increases and how much costs change, and what it is a sort of smorgasbord of what you should be doing to be more cost effective. Basically, frequency increases, which is the type of thing I'm talking about, cost a lot of money. It can get you medium level ridership growth and sometimes into the higher level, but it costs you a packet because you need more vehicles, more drivers. There are some measures that can reduce costs, bus priority measures, bus route simplification. There's quite a lot of opportunity for that in Melbourne. But none of this really is fundamentally changing transport in Melbourne. And my view about doing more than less is it's a ridiculous question in the context of us trying to be the size of Tokyo. Because we're going to be in London, that's on the cards. Our plan after that is probably Tokyo. And you know, we're talking, people are worried about the suburban rail and its costs. I think by 2060, we're wondering why we weren't building more metros, because of the scale of the size of the city, if growth continues. Now that's a very good question. Should growth continue? And I think that's another question. So significant investment is needed. It's hard for me to argue to do more with less when we're asking the public transport system to deal with a city that's double the size. It's just not the question to ask. We need vast investment in public transport to deal with the problems we're facing. Buses, high capacity corridors, there's new bus modes out there which are very exciting, trackless trams. We need higher frequency and bus priority measures. Trams, we are not segregating our trams from traffic. It's an obvious measure to do. It would make them so much more efficient, cost efficient. We need tram priority, we need significant investment in frequency of trams. We should be running 2 to 3 minute headways on our trams. Trains, a lot of modernisation is required and lots of new lines. Frankly, Metro 2 is an obvious good project as well as SRL. Driverless train operation has a lot to do with efficiency. Driverless trains, instead of a 12-car set, you can run 3-car sets, so you can actually get more frequency because you don't need the drivers. You do need really good infrastructure to run that reliably, and that's okay. The one thing I like about the SRL is new infrastructure. We're not relying on the 100-year-old infrastructure. It's all going to be built for purpose. This is why the Asian giants are running fantastic railways. It's because they're new, built for purpose. Land use, we should not be sprawling. We've got to stop that because it just makes the problems worse. It takes people further away from places they can walk and cycle to, frankly. There's a great opportunity with the housing crisis to focus in on walkable, cyclable cities, city centres and development areas where we have excellent public transport, such as suburban railway stations. There are 3 types of cities globally. This was in a European review. If you look at cities around the world and their public transport, they're doing 3 things. They're either providing mobility for people who haven't got mobility. Okay? This is all the policy alternatives. This is the types of policies that would put that together. And I'll put to you, these are sort of small towns. Or the public transport systems relieving traffic congestion in the peak. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing with our public transport system. Or some cities are replacing the car with an entire public transport system where it's got priority over the car. I think we need to start moving up this list to being a city like that. Particularly if we're going to be a mega city. There's going to be about 250 mega cities. There are going to be 10 million more. I think we're on the path to doing that. We are we are a long way from having the infrastructure to enable us to do that really feasibly. So that's it from me. We are running a Masters of Mobility Planning if you're interested in training in this area. I run a group called the Public Transport Research Group. There's our website. We are running a public transport planning course next week. We're bringing Europeans in from the Netherlands at Monash College if you're interested. And 2 weeks from now, we have the Australasian Transport Research Forum in Melbourne at Monash College in Docklands. We welcome you to that as well. Thank you.